Hey Anna,
Hey, Mike.
so we've just finished Billy's first 60 days of Antinol, and wow, what a difference.
Really? Oh my gosh, what have you noticed?
Well, he's shiner, he's much more energetic. Not that he wasn't beforehand, but you can see the difference. But remember, I told you he used to have that little limp in his back left paw that he'd hurt himself when he was a pup. He
Yes,
doesn't seem
yes.
to do that much anymore.
What, the hop, skip, and the jump?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like his joints are a bit better. And we actually had friends around this weekend who'd noticed that there was something good about Billy. And I was telling them about Antinol, and they said, "Oh, what's in it?" I said, "Well, green lip mussel." And they said, "What's that?" And I go, "Oh, well, I don't know. I'll have to ask Anna," as I always do. So
Well,
for next
green,
time, what should I say? What's so great
well,
about green lip mussel?
green lip mussel, it comes from New Zealand. It's the only place that green lip mussels live. And what's great about the green lip mussel is that it is what's known as a broad spectrum source of omega 3. And the reason dogs need to take omega 3 is that their bodies don't make it themselves. So, unless they're getting it through, their diet, which can be omega 6 heavy. And it's very important to have a balance between omega 6 and omega 3. So it's normally through supplements that omega 3 is given. And green lip mussel is unique in its having everything from EPA, DHA, and ETA. So all the main omega 3s.
And how about Binks and Prudence? They must be much better as well.
Yeah, well, they've been on it for over a year and they've been on green lip mussel forever since I've had them. So Prue's 10 now. So she's had green lip mussel since the first day I brought her home, to be honest, but not Antinol. And I only wish I'd discovered Antinol earlier. I really honestly mean that because it's an oil rather than a powder. So its bioavailability, that means, its effectivity to get absorbed quickly and efficiently by the body is greater.
So people listening now and they want to discover Antinol for themselves, where do they go?
Well, all you have to do is go to Antinol, ANTINOL.co.uk, and then type in Anna Webb and get your special discount. Hello, I'm Anna Webb, and welcome to this week's episode of A Dog's Life, where I'm joined by Cam Wimble, the Dog Nutritionist. And this episode is powered by Antinol. Cam Wimble, welcome to A Dog's Life.
Thank you very much, Anna. Very glad to be here.
That is so funny though, because we're on Zoom and your name's obviously on your Zoom, and so just sharing with the listeners there, because you are actually in Wimbledon, aren't you? Physically, you are a Southwest London
Pretty
person.
much, yeah. I'm on the border of Wimbledon and Wandsworth, but I claim my heritage is Wimbledon based.
Well, with a brilliant surname like Wimble, I think you can.
Yeah, I think I should, to be
Yeah,
honest.
absolutely, definitely should. It's a really good part of the world. I didn't know that you were in London actually till we were just having a chat then.
Yeah, whilst we were working through the non-existent technical difficulties.
Yes.
Um,
Well, they said to come with Anna. Anna doesn't really like technology. I'm quite open about admitting it. To be fair, I much prefer dogs in real life, Cam, which I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, I do. But unfortunately, I went from spending all my time with dogs to virtually none of it and working mostly online and doing consultations and more email-based work, which I didn't quite consider at the time. I didn't think my life would move totally into office-based work, but yeah, I try to spend as much time as possible with the family dog, but it's just never really enough time.
Oh no, that sounds so sad actually. Because at the beginning, am I right in thinking you ran like a not Canny Cross exactly, but you were involved in basically dog walking.
Yes, it's basically dog walking, but we took the dogs running, and we did that for dogs based in London. We would do group runs through Wimbledon Common, so having four dogs each, all running off lead. And then we would also take dogs running in different parts of London, Hampstead Heath and Hyde Park, Regent's Park, all of the parks in London. I've run around with a dog or two. And yes, that was a past life which I miss quite a lot, although my knees don't miss it that much.
Uh, Yeah, so running is known to get the knees, but that's great. So you must have had, sort of a certain type of client base of dogs to, do long runs. Not all dogs are cut out for that.
No, I mean, I would say most dogs are if they're not too old. There are obviously certain breeds which are definitely not. The larger, like giant dog breeds can't go on long runs, and then you have bulldogs. Any dog that has a breathing issue as well can't go on a long run. But most sort of young medium-sized dogs can keep up with a human and are much more efficient runners than humans from a physiological standpoint. So running should be easier for them. They have four legs, right? We only have two.
Absolutely.
So they are built for it. And it's just, if you've never run with a dog before, build it up a little bit, especially if they're older, go slow. But most dogs can run and really love it, to be honest.
No, of course they do. It's a very important part of their life, offering enough exercise appropriate to the breed of dog, their bidability, their individual temperaments, and all of these things, indeed. And I have to say, I think it's because I think there's still a bit of prejudice against small dogs. I think because I see so many Vizslas around here, for example. German pointers are suddenly cropping up around my hood at the moment
Mm.
as well, which are breeds that technically, if you're being really technical about things, you might postulate aren't really the best dogs to live in London, quite honestly.
Oh yeah, I mean, most of the clients we got were owners who got working dogs and lived in the city. So you had these dogs that needed basically hours of daily exercise and were being left alone in a flat and maybe given a walk a day of around an hour, which is just like a walk around the local common or park. And these dogs need high intensity exercise. Yeah, I know your hood well, and people are often getting whippets and lurchers and hunting dogs and mostly live in two-bed flats in London with no green space. It's a tricky environment for a working dog, and we found that they were suffering like mentally. They were becoming less trainable because they weren't content enough. They weren't physically being used like they're supposed to be used. And when you don't do that, if you don't engage in what your dog really is, life just goes downhill for them. So it was it was great being able to take these dogs out and the owners saying, "Oh my God, my dog's, completely different. He's chilled out. He seems a lot happier." And yeah, you just treat your dog like they're supposed to be treated, and you'll find that these common issues that dogs get um, kind of seem to disappear. And that's the same with food and health and training and behavior and exercise, all kind of fits into that. Finding the natural path for the individual dog.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more, actually, which is why I opted for bull terriers as my dog when I got my first dog back in. Well, my first dog as a grown up on my own.
Mm.
living in London, as they aren't really mad about exercise. They vary. You either get the lazy gene or you get the
Yeah.
hyper gene with bull terriers, and there's never anything really in the middle. Molly definitely had the lazy gene. She was very happy, not to do any exercise at all. Not that she wasn't given that option, but it was like really hard to get her to walk anywhere. She was much too posh to walk, actually. It was quite funny. But she knew the sound of a black cab from miles away, actually. And when we'd be walking home from our office, she'd stop and look behind. And at first I thought, no, this can't be true. There'd be, oh, it's a black cab. Oh. But the one thing she couldn't work out was whether the black cab had its light on or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, but she knew, because the engines have changed now. This is before everyone went hybrid and everything.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. But she would stop. She wanted to hail a black cab. It was so funny. But they're very funny dogs, bull
You-
terriers, as I'm sure you know. They're not actually like any other breed of dog at all. But that makes them special. Yeah, no, dogs in London, but I think it's brilliant, that people have got them. But it's creating quite a big business opportunity. Would you agree on that, Cam?
100%. Um, I think dog owners, unfortunately, are very easily exploitable in general, much like newborn mothers are exploitable because they have this weight of responsibility, which they're actually pretty unfamiliar with. When you have a child, like it must be absolutely terrifying because you are responsible for this living thing that can't really communicate how it feels and what it wants. I mean, I'm not huge into baby behavioral behaviors and how they communicate. I'm sure they do in some way, but it's hard to understand them without having that experience. And it's the same for dogs. Like it, it's it is nerve-wracking making big decisions for a dog if you haven't had that experience. And that weight of responsibility to do the right thing is really easy to exploit. And you see that all the time with like adverts for supplements, different foods, different treatments. When you go to the vet, people will just buy stuff a lot of the time in a sort of panic mode. They'll be like, "Oh my God, I need to get that because maybe my dog's not feeling well," or um, they might have started limping a little bit, and oh my God, I need to get that. And they spend so much money on, and unfortunately, a lot of the time, absolute garbage. And yeah, it's a massive business. It's a massive business, pets.
No, and it just seems to get bigger and bigger. I feel that, I don't know. I just feel, yes, that the credit crunch is going to put a few dampeners on things this coming year,
Mm.
as everyone's pockets are being squeezed left, right, and centre. But yes, and I believe, though, that the comparison between children and dogs just really shouldn't be made. Really,
Mm.
dogs are not little people in a furry suit. I mean, to think that is actually doing them such an injustice. They are dogs, and as such, they are great. And understanding that that they are not little people in a furry suit, I think, is the first massive point to remember when you bring a dog or a cat or any other living creature into your lives. It's not to assume, this close connection as being human.
Yeah,
I think it's actually quite an insult.
it is an insult. It's an insult to kind of the journey and the development of dogs, their evolution from wolves and all the effort that's been put in by dog owners of previous generations to train a dog in certain ways to get it to become highly instinctual in certain areas. And it is a real shame when you do see such beautiful working dogs in situations where it's just foreign to them and not natural. It was always such a privilege to be going on a run with four Rhodesian Ridgebacks, which we would have at at the dog running company, and you'd be running around Wimbledon Common, and it was nothing short of absolutely glorious because they're loving life. You know, they're in their absolute element, running together. Um, and yeah, I think understanding the breed and the journey of the breed is really integral in providing proper care.
Oh, yes. No, totally. Oh, God, no, I love that you're saying these things because every dog is an individual.
Mm.
Every Rhodesian Ridgeback will be an individual, but there will, of course, be the type characteristics of, its conformation, what it was originally bred for, and understanding all of that. And, I feel sad that, we're gravitating more and more now to designer crossbreeds. And I think about it a lot. And I think, gosh, what on earth is going on? And I think about how people buy dogs on the internet just like that. I remember having to really work hard to find a puppy, to buy. It
Yeah.
was before they were on the internet. And I wanted to find a miniature bull terrier, and it was ringing people up old school that were, and then, somebody they knew somebody else
Mm.
and that could possibly be having a litter, had to get hold of those people. Really, the email was still quite new in those days. So it was using the old dog and bone phone to reach people. And then, you were grilled, you do have outdoor space. If you live in London, you've got to have outdoor space. I go, yes, I totally understand that. And my dad was high up in the Shropshire branch of the RSPCA for many years. I do get it. I understand animal welfare, but I had to really fight my position to be competent to potentially have a puppy.
Now you've got Instagram ads for French bulldogs.
I know, no, I know. Let's not go to all the dark
Scary.
side. It is awfully scary, and I really hope that 2026 can show some difference. I mean, it's ended with the great conversation about confirmation and the 10-point characteristics that's now being approved by the Royal Vet College. So somebody who doesn't know much about dogs, will think, oh no, I mustn't get a dog with a flat face, I mustn't get a dog with bulgy eyes, I mustn't get a dog with merle pretty sort of coloring. Maybe that's not as pretty as we thought it was. And hopefully that way it will drive more conscious choice in dogs, which in turn might reduce, unscrupulous breeders and the like, which is just shocking at the scale of it. So yes, there's an awful lot going wrong in the world of dogs, I've got to say, but let's try and turn this round now to make it a bit positive. When did you get interested in diet though, Cam?
It was whilst I was doing the dog running. Um, One of the runners who I worked with was a friend of mine from school. We'd known each other since we were 7 years old. Um, and he got cancer he had stage 4 cancer at the age of, I think, 23.
Oh.
And it was, yeah, I know we're trying to bring a more positive note to this podcast, but the story does get better. But basically, he was going through the standard treatments for cancer, and when he went to the hospital pre-chemo, they gave him this list of foods which he should be eating, and they were basically pizza, pasta, donuts, because during chemotherapy you lose a lot of weight. So they're like, right, you need to basically get build up a load of weight, and we looked at this menu that he'd been recommended, and it was just like shocking to us because about, in the last 10 to 15 years, human nutrition has come on a long way, and we're all a lot more involved in our diets and we take a lot more care in it. And it was kind of towards the beginning of that movement. And we were like, this is shocking. Like, you're ill. Don't eat all that crap. It's just going to make you a lot less healthy. And he actually worked with a dietitian who produced this meal plan, obviously with a load of healthy vegetables, organic vegetables, some smoothies and juices, and he just used nutrition as part of the therapy as well, and it went really well. Um, the same kind of doctors that were working with him said that they'd never seen anyone kind of recover like he'd recovered, and it just made like perfect sense. Nutrition matters, and poor nutrition can be a form of poison, and good nutrition can be a form of healing. And just that very like basic awakening, I immediately then looked at what the dogs were eating, thinking, hang on a minute, what is all this brown sludge? I'm picking up 30 dog poos a day. They're disgusting. The food, I open the tin and I kind of look away from it because I don't like the smell. Um, this brown sort of meaty biscuits, what's actually in it. And it just became evidently clear that the food most dogs were being recommended wasn't healthy. It wasn't going to be their daily medicine that was going to help prepare their bodies for the day ahead and to nourish them appropriately and to strengthen their immune systems. And so I moved into nutrition because well, a lot of the dogs owners, when their dog got sick, they're being recommended these diets and courses of uh, antibiotics and things like that, and their dogs are just getting sicker and sicker. And as a dog runner, you can't give advice that goes against what a vet is saying and be listened to because people need more authority to trust what you're saying. They need a legitimacy. So I retrained as a dog nutritionist, got a diploma, which you'll know is relatively easy to do. And actually, I don't really credit any of my nutrition knowledge to the course online I did to get a diploma. I very much trained myself, had access to all the peer-reviewed research through friends' university login, and basically just began reading as much as I could on nutrition for specific health issues. So obviously, most of the dogs I see have allergies or digestive issues. A lot of them have kidney problems. And so doing real research into how nutrition can be used to help support those dogs. And it became quite like clear early on how impactful it was just changing a dog's diet from processed foods to fresh food and the difference that made. And so I got really emboldened by that short-term success. It made perfect sense to me, and the job wasn't that hard a lot of the time. I mean, when you work with dogs that have allergies and kidney disease together, or allergies and liver problems, it becomes a lot more complex when you're dealing with those types of unique cases. As you know, like dogs can have such a individualized digestion. But on a general level, I knew what I was doing was really the right thing to do, and that was basically taking dogs from processed foods that are designed to sit on a supermarket shelf to fresh, whole, natural foods.
Absolutely brilliant. I think it's great. I mean, of course, so much can be done just by switching the diet. I mean, this is something, I mean, I always fed my first miniature bull terrier on raw, actually. Well, it was just, I suppose, always tuned into that because I wanted to be a human dietitian.
But humans are a lot harder to help because if you gave a human a diet plan, maybe they'd follow it 60% of the time. But if you give a human a diet plan for their dog and say, feed them this, they will more often than not follow it 100% of the time. And that makes it extremely effective. And when something's effective, it's rewarding. Um, the dog's not ignoring everything you say and going out and drinking 9 pints of beer and eating Cadbury's dairy milk. They are following the diet plan that the owner gives them.
Exactly. No, no, it's true. But yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you are right. The whole vista has changed dramatically. There's a lot more choice on the market.
Mm.
And I just think, there'll always be a sticking point around the vet profession, and the vet profession being inextricably linked with certain brands. But I think that the CMA investigation has already flagged it with one particular chain of vets, and their involvement with a particular brand. So I hope that that is going to loosen, if you like, because, a lot of people want to listen to their vet, and they want to take advice from their vet, and they believe that's the right place to learn about things, which is absolutely true,
Understandable why you'd want to seek advice from someone who at least you think has been trained in keeping
Health.
pets healthy. Yeah, keeping pets healthy. But the unfortunate truth is that a lot of the advice you get around health care and 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 the things that you need to do on a daily basis to keep your dog healthy, a vet hasn't been trained in.
No, that is true what you say. I mean, they actually only spend 6 hours on their course over 6 years on studying nutrition. So it does depend on individual. And some vets, I'm sure, do eat a lot of McDonald's every day as their own food. Others won't be. It's like a cross section of society, really, in a way.
Yeah.
But it is. Definitely, we know a lot more now. I mean, in the last decade, Cam, yes, I mean, a lot has changed, and there's a lot that, pet parents can say to their vet. Comparing processed foods for humans as now being considered not something you should eat every day. So what happened with your friend?
He recovered. He completely recovered. I mean, they had to remove a few enormous tumors. But yeah, he completely recovered and is very healthy to this day, which is
There you go. You see, there you go. And so yes, on the human sphere, a lot has changed. But you've got to remember that before some of these big brands existed, in the 1950s, 1960s, most people were feeding their dog on whole, fresh food in terms of some scraps, in terms of bits and pieces, in terms of, the butcher's dog is always the most healthy dog. That's the old adage, wonder why. And people would get scraps from butchers because people used to still go to butchers. I
yeah.
think it's been the advent of the supermarket generally. I can remember before supermarkets were everywhere, for example. So it's not that long ago, Cam. So, and it's a shame, really. I think, our eating values have changed and we've transferred them to our dogs, and we all want convenience and we want speed and we want, right, oh, this takes an hour to cook. Oh, I haven't got time for that. We're all using microwaves and they're intrinsically really bad. I mean, something I learned in my study was, why would you microwave your food? You're potentially radiating it and then you're eating it. Really great idea.
Microwaving in a plastic pot,
Yes.
it is scary.
I
But
know. Well, I wouldn't do it. I haven't got a microwave. I'd never do that. I mean, I've really never seen the point of them, actually, I must admit. Yeah, so there's a lot of factors, isn't it, that kind of influence what people choose to feed. And I think, convenience or a perception of what's convenient, that's the thing. It's a perception, I think, more often than not. What do you think?
what around why dog owners choose a food is mainly for convenience.
Yeah. But convenience in itself is,
The driver of why different products are made.
yeah, but I think people don't understand what convenience is really, or their assumption of what's convenient may not actually be any less convenient than feeding a food that they think is intrinsically definitely inconvenient. In other words, a raw, fresh, balanced, complete diet, people think, well, that's got to be such hassle. I mean, you've got to get it out of the freezer, you've got to let it thaw, and then you've got to put it into the bowl. I mean, surely just having a bag of cremated biscuits in the corner of my shed is going to be a lot. Actually, most people haven't even got a shed, so it wouldn't be in the shed. But are you with
Yeah,
me? Are you with
yeah, in
me?
like the cupboard under the sink,
Yeah, where the dog could probably access it and then overdose on kibble.
Detergents.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Be next to, yes, volatile organic compounds coming from detergents under the sink. That,
Mm.
yes, yes. I mean, gosh, I couldn't think of anything worse. Why would you keep your dog food under the sink?
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting when you go to the supermarket, the dog food aisle is often directly next to the detergents. And that's how you can just tell that the food is something's not right here because all the other food is in the refrigerated section or where the vegetables are kept in the slightly cooled area. But the dog food is next to the cleaning products. So I always find that quite eye-opening.
No, well, it is actually. It's quite funny. I hadn't actually ever thought of that. But then I've never really got my food for my pets in the supermarket. So it's not something, I mean, I actually try and avoid going to supermarkets so much because I actually can't bear them. There's far too many people in one space going mad, which I generally like to avoid, to be
I go
honest.
at
So
them quite a lot because I make videos on,
yes, no, I see your
healthy.
videos. Yeah, which is good. I like your videos. Do you do those yourself or do you have someone helping you?
I've got someone helping me. So I actually work with my sister who's in charge of the social media side to what I do. And so, yeah, we kind of go in there semi undercover, um, make a quick video on why a certain food is really unhealthy or why a fresh food ingredient is healthy, what benefits it has, and try and quickly make a video without filming too many other people and then inevitably getting kicked out by the manager of the supermarket. So it's quite a discreet operation that we try and have.
Undercover.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think, the vista is there now for people. I think that the way is, I believe, is to try and educate really and to show support for people who aren't doing anything on purpose wrong. That's the thing,
100%.
you know.
100%. When we were having our conversation a bit earlier, I said when at the start of my transition into dog nutrition, I was making really combative videos because I was so sort of angry, if you like, with the state of the world of pets that I was really like shaming in a way of certain food choices or I was quite shaming of the veterinary profession in the way that it recommended processed foods and it's not a great way to go about changing someone's mind, slagging them off.
No, no, it's never good. That's not really. Oh,
No,
it's so
it
funny
doesn't.
though. You've got to have a laugh. It's yeah.
I was young and I was learning about really communication and how to get people to change their mind because the overall goal is to get people to basically start feeding more fresh foods because it'll help keep their dog healthier. And the way you do that is not by shoving it down their throat that they're poisoning their dog. It's by saying, here's how easy it can be to include healthy foods that will improve your dog's life. Like that is the line, is this is what can happen if you include these fresh foods rather than being like, you're poisoning your dog, you're a bad person.
No, no, absolutely. No, couldn't agree more. But it's also as to highlight, biologically and physiologically that a dog, as you mentioned earlier, they're on 4 feet. That's a
Yes.
big clue there. That's a big clue. Their digestion is completely different to ours. We're on 2 feet, with a two-legged. So the four-legged have very different eating requirements depending on their species. A lot of that goes back to sort of O-level biology, but I know O-levels don't even exist anymore. It's showing my age. But
Yes.
I certainly learned a dog was a carnivore, like, when I was about 14, I mean, it was
Yeah.
like a given. Oh, yes, dogs eat meat. But so I don't know really what children learn these days because
But
yeah.
that's the thing. I do these presentations, and I was giving a presentation to a group of trainee dog trainers, and the first thing I talk about is what is a dog? Because if you ask the average person on the street what is a dog, they don't really understand. They'd be like, oh, well, it's a Ridgeback or it's a French Bulldog. And it's like, no, their physiology has evolved over basically millions of years. And your dog is a domesticated wolf, and you need to understand how wolves have changed into your current dog breed to understand what is a dog. Like, what are the genetic differences between a dog and a wolf? Because it's that gap which is actually how basically what a dog is. And it turns out from a physiological standpoint, they haven't changed that much. From a morphological standpoint, from a visual standpoint, obviously they look completely different. But when you look at the inner workings of their digestive system, it hasn't really changed that much. So, uh, yeah, it's interesting to me how few people truly understand like the dog that they own. Um,
No, I agree. I mean, I totally agree. And I think the sad thing is, because of this, we're seeing so much abandonment at the moment. It's my little funny theory that I actually think that there are more dogs in rescue centres now than there are in homes. Maybe wrong on that. There's a lot in rescue.
Mm.
I think everyone needs to sharpen their pencil a little bit, really, and do the right thing by dogs
I know.
at all levels, all levels, individual owners, the vet profession, daycares, everybody needs to just think, without the dog, because the irony is, without the dog, we wouldn't have a capitalist world, because we wouldn't have been able to have got our livestock to market. How would they have done
Mm.
that before the motor car engine was invented? They couldn't have done it. So we owe a lot to dogs, and in a way, dogs got us in this mess of this endless capitalist wheel that we're all on. And I just think, yeah, we just need to, just do a bit better by dogs. I think, they're not a commodity. It's not a right to own a dog. It's by far a privilege beyond all
Yeah.
privileges. And but I know because I'm an ambassador for All Dogs Matter, and I do work quite closely with the charity actually to really try and help. And yeah, it's absolutely awful. I couldn't work in their office. I wouldn't be able to do it. And to be honest, dogs are just being handed in left, right, and center. Yeah, it's really bad. I think we all need to sort of look at the bigger picture. And of course, you are what you eat. It's been proven in the human level. And I think people should just look at it a bit more properly for dogs as well.
Yeah, I always get asked the question like, why don't I have a dog? So my family has a dog, but everyone who finds out I'm a dog nutritionist are like, why don't you have a dog? Like, I know better than anyone just through looking after dogs and doing the dog running, like how much you need to be ready in your life to take on the responsibility of owning a dog. And I've been setting up the dog nutritionist. I live in a flat in London. I know that it wouldn't be a responsible thing to do. You know, I've got to the age now, th 32, where I basically can look after myself, like just about learn that I can look after myself now. And so I think in the next few years, if I'm able to get a bit more green space, then I will be ready then. But people find it shocking that I don't have a dog, but I think I think it's shocking that some of the people I speak to have a dog, you know. So I just know that like how how much it really does take and and yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but unfortunately my life up until this point it just hasn't been possible. And if I had got a dog when I was younger, um, it would have had to have sat in a flat with me for so much because I've been working and I wouldn't have been able to give it the life that I want to give it. So
No, it's very sensible, very, very sensible. But you could could adopt a senior dog that
Yeah.
doesn't need as much exercise, because the rescues are now. I mean, I do believe, adopting would be the right thing to do at the moment,
Mm.
only because of the crisis really that is out there in rescues, so that another dog could then have a chance. But yeah, no, that's right. Well, I didn't have my first dog living in London until I was 37, so I
Yeah.
was older than you, but I'd already gone freelance anyway. But back then, that dog friendly didn't exist, so you'd never be able to take your dog to the office back then. That would just never have happened. It's
There were no
impossible.
puppuccinos,
There
were
were no
there?
puppuccinos, thank heavens for that. There were no dog walkers actually either, thank heavens for that. There were no doggy creches. It was great. And then it was around 2005 when suddenly this massive kind of tidal wave hit the UK from New York. And then basically, it just got more and more and more and more. Pet shops became boutiques. There was no more sawdust in the floor. There were no more goldfish dying in the corner in pet shops, and things became more and more and more glam. And then glam collar brands came and went, and the idea of feeding a dog, a glamorous ready meal, with smart packaging, all became the vogue. Whereas people fed their dogs pretty well for several thousand years prior to 2005. So it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting just to look at it from a historical perspective. I might write a book on it, actually, Cam. The way the world might be quite
Yeah.
interesting, because people did feed their dogs on meat. Feeding dogs on meat isn't new. People were doing it for a very, very long time. Then there was a bit of a blip, and now people are coming back to it because of more awareness on a human level of nutrition, as you pointed out with your friends. So I think the future isn't bleak. I think the future
No.
is probably the brightest it's been. Yeah, that's kind of what I think. But I think it's great you're helping people. That's great. It's always good to help people, and particularly help them with their dogs.
Yeah. You should write a book on the history of dog ownership and how it's changed over the last sort of probably like 1,000 years, but the most amount of change has happened just in
Yes,
the last
isn't it? Yeah.
last like 200, because all of the different dog breeds that now exist, the vast majority only came into existence 200 years ago. And then
Yeah, but that's been challenged recently, actually. If you listen to one of my recent podcasts,
Mm.
they've found skulls in different parts of the world, mainly actually in China, that these skulls are, several thousand years old. They aren't shaped like wolves, right?
Right.
So, yeah, very different shaped heads, which does actually so suggest that there were a lot more different types of dogs in different parts of the world, probably bred for specific purposes than we previously thought.
Yeah,
It's
there were,
interesting.
if you look at, because when I did a bit of studying on the evolution of wolves and then into different dog breeds, there were previous sort of dog-like uh, pets that didn't come from the grey wolf. And so humans had been using and working with dogs prior to the now modern domestic dog that we have, Canis lupus familiaris. So yeah, I can I
Well,
can
there's going to be a podcast early in the new year. Can't say too much about it, but apparently the missing link between, because no one's been able to work out when a wolf became a dog.
no.
Personally, I think it's kind of not necessary to work it out. Does it matter? Not really. But however, people are fixed on this. This apparently is the great missing link question. Can't really say too much, but in an upcoming week, we're going to be talking to someone who allegedly has found this missing
That's
link.
super exciting.
Yeah, no, I know. I have to keep it under wraps. So it's good. Yeah,
Okay.
no, I'm really excited. Oh, he's an Oxford scientist, and
Mm.
yes, so that's going to be exciting. I know my podcast producer is obviously listening right now. He'll be going, really? And it's like, yes, yes, yes. This has all happened. I haven't even told Mike about it yet. So interesting. And it is in the UK where they discovered it, actually. Even more interesting. So hold that thought. But I'm sure there's other places in the world where it is as well. So I don't know. But for me, yeah, I find it, I don't know, a bit of this crazy obsession. I don't really see that it matters, because the wolf would have gradually, and we're talking gradually over thousands of years, become more tame, become more biddable. You know, we wouldn't have been like we are now. We would have been like big chimps. So we wouldn't have even been able to have said sit. We would be grunting probably. I mean, the thought of it just makes me laugh. We would have been Neanderthal man. I mean, I know, so it all just would have been very, very different.
Yeah. No
So
Instagram accounts for their dogs.
you what? Sorry,
No
sorry.
Instagram accounts for their dogs.
No, don't get me started on all that. I know. But listen, very quickly, you've got a supplement, is that right? Or have I dreamt that?
Yes, I do. I do. I've got just a multivitamin which is made out of basically whole food ingredients and a probiotic which I sell on my business is called the Dog Nutritionist for anyone that's interested in trying to improve their dog's health through food and diet. That's the place to go.
Oh, yeah. So what's the supplement called?
It's just called the multivitamin and
Okay.
probiotic. We don't really sugarcoat anything. We just the only thing that we're selling is the ingredients within it. We don't really brand the products. You won't see a smiling dog on the face of the packaging. It'll just be the multivitamin, the probiotics, and it'll be very clear to see exactly what's in it. And yeah, they're both formulated by me through the research I've done and understanding which ingredients have certain functions and maybe some nutrients that are hard to find in your supermarket foods. So yeah.
Well, that's great. No, well done. I think that's brilliant that you've created your own product. I must admit, I'd love to do that, but haven't been in the position to really. But everyone's got their different skill set. And I think everyone together, it's like a family of educating and betterment, really, is what it's a mantra to
Yeah,
help
it
people
is.
navigate some of the hurdles that all dog owners will face at some point in their individual journeys.
Yeah, we are this little sort of offshoot network of people that vaguely know each other, all trying to do the right thing for dogs. It's a weird and wonderful world to be in.
Well, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, Anna.
Happy New Year, Cam, and hope to be in touch.
Take care.
That's our show, everyone. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, go on, give us a thumbs up. Go and rate and review the show wherever you tune into your podcasts. Thanks again, of course, to Cam for joining us today, and to Mike, my producer, for all the music and production as ever. And if you're interested in finding out a bit more about Antinol, why not go to their website? And at the checkout, you can use my code, which is simply Webb, to get your special discount. And if you haven't already, go on, subscribe, because it's free. And that way you'll never miss another show. Bye for now.